Multi-Current Reviews is back for the spring 2024 season. And with all the new series and sequels for me to check out, I'm excited to talk about some of the TV shows I've been tuning into this season. With that in mind, let's begin this season's Multi-Current Review.
God, bro, we need you to calm our kidnapped woman down!
Don't worry, I got this. Just as planned. First on the list is Monster, a show that has a similar vibe to the time I get reincarnated as a slime, only not due to certain things. So what is the story of Monster? To explain it simply, our story follows a guy who, after being stabbed by someone in his past life, wakes up as a goblin. Not in that sense, in another world. And as he explores his new life as a goblin, he found that he still had an ability he had in his past life which lets him absorb the skills of the things he eats. Using this ability, he works to build up his village of goblins and make his life in this world as best as it can be. Now, to cut straight to the point here, the show overall is fine, it's alright. Its world building is a bit clunky at times, and since the story is done in like a journal entry-like form of storytelling, it's kind of hard to take the plot seriously since they have to wrap up stories usually within a pretty fast time frame. And while that does sometimes help, since there are some pieces of content that are a bit annoying to deal with, so it helps us get through those really quickly, there's still some problems I have with this show. Ignoring the fact that most of the girls our main character Gaburo, as he's called earlier in the series, have surrounded around him are only there due to something that can basically be described as Stockholm Syndrome, a lot of the other people we meet in the story are either lacking any form of personality or simply play off a single trait. Not only that, a lot of the characters in the show's character growth happens off screen, and so when we suddenly talk about a character that's grown massively since the last time we saw them, I just find myself not being that interested because I'm just like, wait, who are these people? Do we know them? And it's a problem that the whole show as just a whole has a problem with, as I don't really know these people and I wish we could have seen more of them before their sudden evolution to a new stage. But yeah, moving past that, there are still some things I find myself enjoying with some of the characters in the show, and overall, with how kind of whacked out the story pace it can be at times, and overall just a weird vibe, I still think there's a bit of charm there, and I think also that if we gave it some time, the world and the characters and stuff can all be improved upon. And I definitely would like to see where the story goes, even though it, as of right now, is kind of just okay. And that's why, as of right now, I give Monster a 6 out of 10. I'm curious to see what the show has in store next, and let's move on to the next one. Next on the list, we have Windbreaker, a story that follows a young boy named Sakura who's recently becoming the strongest around after being ridiculed his whole life with how weird everyone thought his mixed hair and eyes were with how they were different colors. And so, after he's accepted to the school called Furin, he aims to become the strongest around in order to, stand on top. But moving past that, getting into the start of this anime, I'll be honest, I really had no idea what I was getting into when I was starting this show, since the only thing I'd really seen from it was one really well animated fight scene in episode 1. So when I sat down to give it a shot, I wasn't really sure whether I would like it or not. However, after sitting down and watching it, I was surprised to find I was actually really enjoying myself. I would say the plot isn't too special because it's mostly just character driven. It's not really plot driven. It's just mostly focusing on the characters and who they are and what they go through. However, I still find myself enjoying these characters and seeing them grow. And with how well animated the hand-to-hand combat is in this show, it just kept drawing me in. Like, I love the hand-to-hand combat in this show. I really freaking enjoyed it. And it just kept me coming back every single episode to just keep seeing how things are going to turn out. And with how prominent the fights are in this anime, I found myself really enjoying everything they had to offer. Though I do have to give one complaint where I was not a big fan of our protagonist Sakura's whole main personality, where he's just like this hard-headed tsundere who's constantly just trying to hide his feelings and stuff like that. It was funny at the start, but as the season progressed, I found myself getting a bit tired of it. Though, at this point, I'm just kind of living with it now, even though I'm not a super big fan of it, but it is what it is. It's part of his personality, and I just gotta roll with it. But yeah, in the end, the show is still really good, and it actually gave me a reason to appreciate fight scenes that aren't just flashy imagery and stuff like that. Like, full-on hand-to-hand combat isn't something I see in too many anime, and I actually find myself really enjoying it. Other than that, the characters themselves are also really good, and Sakura's personality aside, I still really do enjoy this anime a lot, and thus, overall, as of right now, I give Windbreaker an 8 out of 10. It may not be perfect, but I'm really liking how things are looking right now, and I'm thrilled to see what's gonna happen next. Starting off the sequels, we got Tensei, or That's How I Got Reincarnated as Slime, Season 3. A season that takes place after the events of Season 2, as the Holy Church as well as Hinata Sakaguchi find themselves unsure what to do with Rimuru's Monster Nation. Because of this, discussions will be held as a plot filled with all sorts of schemes and tricks could lead to a possibly terrifying outcome against Rimuru and the Church. So, yeah. Now, going into this season, I was quite curious to see how they go about continuing the story after the second season, since I freaking love the second season. Season 2 of Slime is one of my favorite seasons of really any isekai ever. I love Season 2 of Slime. So I was curious to see how they'd be able to top this previous season and how they would handle it now. And to be honest, it's alright. As of right now, I finally managed to catch up to the rest of the season, and while stuff is actually starting to move now, it's hard to ignore the fact that a lot of this season at the start has just been a lot of talking, like a ton of talking, which in my opinion is the worst part of Season 2, which thankfully it's a very little part of Season 2, but the talking was the most boring part. However, at the start of this season, I honestly didn't really mind the talking that much at the start. In fact, at the beginning, I was kind of interested in seeing what they were going to discuss. But about halfway through it all, I just started to feel myself getting a bit tired of it, and I started wanting things to happen. And I was really glad when stuff did start to happen. But overall, it's just kind of mixed right now. But I am still very much enjoying this because it's just fun. Seeing Rimuru and everyone else discuss things about their world is fun. Maybe not to the degree that I'd want to watch 6 episodes of it, but it's still fun nonetheless, and I still enjoy it. So, yeah. Overall, I'm still liking this season of Slime, and I hope that we continue to progress forward, and hopefully talking won't be like a too massive big part of the season, since it can get a bit tedious at times. Even so, I hope that the season just gets better and better, and that's why, as of right now, in terms of my enjoyment, I give That Time I Got Reincarnated as Slime Season 3 an 8 out of 10. I'm still enjoying it plenty enough, and while the talking isn't amazing, I still think it's fascinating, and I do find myself excited now that we're actually getting into the main story, and yeah. With that said, let's move on to something a little more goofier.
Warning, the following bit was written by somebody who's never played Yu-Gi-Oh! So if this offends any Yu-Gi-Oh! Players... Sorry, not sorry.
Come on, Tayo. I know you have them.
No, I don't.
So lie to me. I know you have them, so give them to me!
I refuse!
Why?
Because 2 Exodia cards for a single pot of greed isn't a fair trade!
Why, you?
Next up, we have Mission Yozakura family. This story follows a young boy named Tayo, who, after nearly getting assassinated by the brother of his childhood friend Mitsumi, who comes from a family of spies, he soon learns that the only way in order to free himself from the situation is to get married to Mitsumi right then and there. With no other choice, he seals the deal, and from then on, he works as part of the family in order to protect Mitsumi from danger. And that's just how the story starts, so yeah. Alright, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. This show is actually pretty solid, at least until recently. However, that all changed when a certain character entered the fray who has quickly become my least favorite character in the show. A character so disturbing and annoying that she makes my eyes roll every single time she's on screen. She's so annoying and I can't stand her, and why is she on the show? I'm sorry. Got a bit carried away there. But anyways, moving past that, the rest of the show is actually pretty solid. I enjoy the interactions between Tayo and the rest of the family, as well as his connection with Mitsumi. It's honestly just really freaking sweet. There are some weird parts to it as well, such as Mitsumi's older brother, who, while funny at times, can also be incredibly weird, but still is a bit entertaining overall. And I also think the show is plenty charming. I legitimately have a good time with it whenever I'm watching. It may not be my personal pick for the anime season, but even so, I'm still really enjoying it. And as long as one specific character doesn't become more prominent, I feel like I can easily sit down and enjoy this show. Thus, overall, I give Mission Yozakura family a 7 out of 10. It's charming enough, and I think it's a fun way to pass the time. But with that said, let's move on to a show I actually wasn't going to watch this season, but I'm so glad I gave a shot. So you're gonna pay for lunch today, right? I'm kinda low on money right now.
I'm sorry, food's on me today.
Next up on the list, we got Go Go Loser Ranger, a story following a monster known as Fighter D, who, after growing sick of the charade set up by this world's equivalent of the Power Rangers, vows to take them down once and for all. But with the Power Rangers pulling things behind the scenes, can D actually defeat them? That's what this story tries to find out. Now, having started this anime a bit later than most people, as I said I wasn't really planning to check it out originally, I wasn't sure if I'd like it or not, since despite having my fair share of Power Ranger shows I've watched, I didn't really know if the idea of evil Power Rangers would be very appealing to me. And it wasn't helped by the fact that this show was set to have a lot of impersonation and stealth missions, which I wasn't a big fan of, so I wasn't sure if I would at all really get into this anime, and I thought I would probably drop it very quickly. Thankfully though, it seems all the worries and concerns were completely unwarranted, as Go Go Loser Ranger is actually a really freaking good show. I won't say it's my anime season like I said with the last one, but there are still a lot of many good moments, and honestly, I just really enjoy it. And the fact that we have D as our main character, who, even though we know he's just a loser and it's unsure whether we should really try to hope for his success, considering his goal is meant to be like world domination and whatnot, I still think that he really does a great job of being an entertaining main character, and the story has really sucked me in, and I just find myself enjoying pretty much every single episode. And once again, while it's not my anime of the season, there is one thing about it that I absolutely love. And that is that I think it definitely has my favorite opening in terms of the visuals. I love the visuals for this. The song itself is nice enough. However, I feel like what really brings this opening together is just how beautiful its visuals are. Some of the openings in the season do have some good visuals. However, I really give props to Go Go Loser Ranger, as I think it is just such a good opening in terms of visuals. Not even just the visuals for the opening, but the ending visuals are also really good. And I think the visuals are great. And I just give my compliments to that because I just love them so much. I never skip the opening. I love how it all looks, and overall it's just so good. But yeah, I can't help but really enjoy this anime. I'm having such a good time, and while again it's not my absolute tip-top favorite, I'm still very much enjoying this anime, and that's why I give Go Go Loser Ranger an 8 out of 10. I've been having a blast so far, and I'm really freaking excited to see what sort of situation D will find himself in next. Next up, we got Misfit, the Demon King Academy, Season 2, Part 2. Something, I'll be honest, I didn't even realize was coming out till about the time it was about to start releasing. So, yeah. Taking place after Part 1, Season 2 follows Anos as he finds himself being forced into a game to decide who would be the next to join the gods as kind of like a god candidate. And since he's one of these candidates, Anos has to deal with all sorts of struggles from enemies as they try to close in on him and try to take him out so they can take that top spot as becoming the next god. So, how will he defeat them all? I mean, we know that he's going to win, but how will he defeat them? Only time would tell. Anyways, moving past that, I'll be honest here, I was actually somewhat excited for this season, since I was told by some people when I released my last review for Part 1 that the story they'd be adapting this time around would actually be really freaking good. Thus, when I popped into the first episode and watched it and actually found myself enjoying it for the most part, minus the last little bit of it, I was curious to see where the rest of the season would go, since that was a decently good start. However, I'm disappointed to say that after that, the story just isn't really that interesting. There are still some standout episodes that are pretty good, but it doesn't really help when you have stuff like the terrible CGI dragons, as well as rushed storylines. There's literally one episode where it feels like they crammed like an episode or 2 episodes of story into less than 10 minutes. It was annoying, and sometimes it just became so unbearable to watch. And while there is still some charm to be had, honestly, if there's one thing I gotta make clear, that is, I wish they spent more time explaining things to us, because there's so much random crap that happens in this entire season, and so much just kind of comes out of nowhere. They're like, hey, here's this magical ability. Hey, these characters could do this. How do they do it? I don't know. Hey, this character's gonna do this now. Where did that come from? Hey, there's this other kind of thing. It's just, those things annoy the heck out of me. And while some of them are already pretty dumb overall, there are some even dumber things. Like, I'm going to be honest here, I am so sick of that stupid power of love bullshit. I can't help but find myself rolling my eyes at it because of how stinking dumb it is. I hate how that's become such a prominent part in this story. Stop it. I hate the power of love stuff. It is stupid. It creates just kind of like a random little extra thing to explain, like, oh, hey, this character is not corrupted by something. Well, guess what? It's the power of love, because love can definitely do that, right? It can definitely do that. I'm sorry. Just, I absolutely hate that aspect. That ruins so much of the story for me. I hate it. Maybe things are better in the light novels, but as of right now, I'm really not enjoying myself with the second half of Season 2 of Misfit, the Demon King Academy. It just lacks the same charm the first season did. which still had its own fair share of bullcrap and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I just didn't like this season as much. And honestly, if it keeps going down this route with the stupid power of love bullcrap, I might end up dropping this show because I just can't stand how tedious watching season 2 has been, and I'm not enjoying it at all. Still, there are some decent episodes here and there, and I'm gonna try to stick through to the end of the season, but I'll be honest, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna keep going with this, and yeah. Overall, as of right now, I give Misfit of Demon Kid Academy Season 2 Part 2 a 4 out of 10. It could have been a lot better paced, way better animated, and, you know, many other things that really could have been fixed up, and the story could have been a lot better, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. So with that, let's just move on to something I consider to just be a little bit better.
What in tarnation is all this hustle bustle going on in my... Oh!
Well, butter my biscuits. So this is what people mean when they say they're into furries.
Next up, we got Spice and Wolf, a story that follows a merchant named Lawrence who, after running into Holo, a wolf deity who wished to return to her homeland, decide to travel together while dealing with all sorts of situations involving the world of trade that Lawrence is all too familiar with. Now, as I'm sure most people are aware, this is a remake of the story of Spice and Wolf, something that many people hold very dear to their hearts. However, I actually never watched the original, so I ended up going into this completely blank, no idea what to expect. And because I wanted to see why people love the show so much, I decided to give this show a shot, and in my honest opinion, my feelings on the show are actually a bit complicated. A part of me was worried it would be another Freeran situation where I didn't really get what all the hype was about, where everyone was just loving the show, just saying how phenomenal it is, how great it is, meanwhile I just thought it was decently solid. But to be honest, I actually kind of find myself a bit conflicted on this one, because I don't really love this show. However, I don't really hate it either. It's like one part of my brain could not care less, just doesn't really think the story is interesting at all, just wants to move on, while another part of my brain is super absorbed in it and wants to see every little thing and just loves what they're watching. And because those two sides are conflicting with each other, it makes it a bit hard to say whether I actually love this show or not. So honestly, I'm going to say that for now, I just like the show, since I do find myself enjoying the whole connection between Holo and Lawrence. I think their banter and stuff like that, their moments of seriousness and stuff like that, they're all interesting enough. I do think there is some fun here, although I do have my own problems with it, such as the stuff with the merchant talk. A lot of it goes right over my head. Some of it I do kind of get, and I do think it's easy to understand, but there are other times where I blank out and my brain just goes into sleep mode for a second, where I can't process what's happening, it just goes in one ear and out the other. But even so, I think there is some charm to this show, and while I may not love it as much as other people do, I still think there's a lot of charm here, and I definitely do want to sit through the rest and see how this story continues. So to conclude, it's interesting enough, and I do think that there is something worth checking out here, and that's why, in the end, I give Spice and Wolf a 7 out of 10. I may not love it as much as some of the other shows on this list, but I definitely do want to see where Lawrence and Holo's adventures take them next. But with that said, let's move on to the next show. Next up, we have an anime that, despite what people say, isn't actually an isekai, and that is a show with such a long name, I'm not even gonna bother saying it. And yeah, this story follows a man who, after dying, reincarnates into the body of the seventh prince, where he uses his new life to work hard and perfect his magic abilities. I just said the title in different wording, didn't I? Anyways, now having reincarnated in this new form, our protagonist Lloyd works hard to learn as much as he can while using his overpowered magical abilities however he sees fit. With that summary out of the way, I'm happy to say that despite all the anime I've been watching this season, this has to be one of my absolute freaking favorites. Now, there is some questionable design choices when it comes to our main character Lloyd, but other than that, I am still having a lot of fun, so that makes me not really care. As I said, I'm just having fun, and Lloyd himself, as a protagonist, is an absolute blast to watch. His crazy obsession with magic and his attitude of being totally indifferent to pretty much everything else around him except magic just makes me laugh. And while there are also some other weird things, like this 10-year-old having a harem of women of different ages, which is just plain weird, I still very much enjoy it, and Lloyd and the whole show is just so much fun. It gets so many laughs out of me. I've just been having an amazing time, and I can't help but look forward to every single episode. Would I say it's perfect? Of course not. There are some episodes where I just didn't really care too much of what happens. Still, I more often than not really love this show. I love the episodes, I love the story, the comedy. It just fits right into that nice little slot of entertaining. It is just perfect to plop down, turn your brain off for. It is just so much fun. And while it does have its weird moments, I still freaking love this show, and it's just fantastic. I love it so much, and I'm very excited to keep watching since I just enjoy it so much. I love it. And that is why I was reincarnated as the 7th prince so I could take my time perfecting my magical ability, an 8 out of 10. I've been loving the show so far, and I can't wait to laugh at the crazy things Lloyd will get up to next. Moving on to an anime that actually is an isekai, we have Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2. The second half of a season that for some reason gets a lot of hate, despite how good it is, simply just because it has a more chill vibe than the first season does. But moving past that, this half follows Rudius as he's adjusting to his new life with Sylphie, while also dealing with new problems that are coming his way and are also about to come his way as things are just about to go crazy. And yeah, it's not a great description, but we have to roll with it because there's not really much you can say without spoiling. So yeah. So how is the second half of Season 2 faring for Mushoku Tensei? To be honest, absolutely amazing. Now, I'm not gonna say that it's perfect. There are a few episodes here and there that I felt dragged on for a little too long. Content that honestly I did think needed a whole episode to be dragged out, but it was anyway. Even so, I still think there's so much good here that I don't even care, because even though those episodes do feel like they drag things out a little bit, I still think there's a lot to love about this season. A lot more emotion, a lot more character stuff, and I really love how it expands on more of the characters that we previously only really saw here and there, and does a great job at trying to flesh out some of the characters. So I'm not gonna say who for spoilers, but there are 2 characters in here that at least one of them gets an incredible amount of growth as a character, even if only to an episode or 2. But there's just a lot of moments here that I think are really good, and I legitimately love this season. Season 2 Part 2 has just been more of the amazingness that is Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei is just an absolute treat. It is phenomenal. It is such a great show with such deep meaning behind it. And while I am disappointed to hear there is some cut content, I am still enjoying myself a lot, and I just cannot put this show down. I've been tuning into it every single week, and Rudius' journey is just incredible. I love it so much, and with how the story is progressing, I feel like it's only going to get more and more interesting from here. So yeah, I'm excited to see where Rudius' decisions take him next, and overall, I give Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2 a 9 out of 10. It isn't perfect, but it's still an amazing show, and I look forward to sitting through the rest and seeing what happens next. With that said, let's get into what I consider to be my #1 favorite anime this season. Last but not least, we have the anime Kaiju No. 8. The show with an opening that looks more like it should be for a live-action TV show instead of an anime, but still a good opening nonetheless. So, what's the story? Basically, in this world constantly invaded by kaiju, we follow our main character Kafka. No, not that Kafka. We follow Kafka, who, after having a monster shoved down his throat, gains the ability to turn into a kaiju monster. And with this ability in hand, he tries his best to join the military as he desires to take down kaiju alongside his childhood friend. But can he prove his abilities not just in kaiju form, but also prove he has what it takes for his own merits as well? That's what the series tries to answer. Now, moving past that, as I said before, I consider this anime to be my absolute favorite this season. It's funny, action-packed, and the story has me legitimately intrigued. Even if there are some things left unexplained, which sometimes I wish they would explain how they happen, I still think there's a lot of great stuff to the show. Even the power of friendship, which I'm normally not a big fan of, which is a prominent part in this show, doesn't actually annoy the heck out of me like a certain other show, which seems to want to use the power of love consistently, which makes me really not like the show. But for this show and its power of friendship, I actually find myself fully being able to get behind it because I legitimately think that the show is just so freaking good that it doesn't matter that there's a lot of power of friendship stuff. But while I do absolutely enjoy it, there are still some kind of weird parts to it as well, such as some of the immature humor that could be a bit much sometimes, but that's just its own problem. It's not a super big deal, and I still really enjoy this, and I also just find myself loving every single episode, and I'm so glad that I decided to give the show a chance because it is just so good. It knows how to get me hyped up for the fights and stuff that happen between Kafka and his kaiju form and other characters. It has a great soundtrack that constantly knows how to get me in the mood for the battles and other awesome things that happen, and I just keep coming back every single week because I love seeing how everything's going to turn out and what the story is going to do. And overall, it's just fantastic. I love it. It may not be perfect in every single way, but I still really, really like it. And that is why I give Kaiju number 8 a very high 9 out of 10. I'm really enjoying this show, and I hope we can keep up the momentum since it's just so freaking amazing, and I'm really excited to see what's to come. And that about wraps it up. There were definitely some other shows I wanted to put into this video, but there were already so many shows on this list to be kind of hard to squeeze in even more. Still, I hope you all enjoyed and look forward to the next one. I personally really enjoy doing these since they give me the chance to be able to talk about some of the shows I've been enjoying during the current anime season, and overall, it's just a really fun time. And yeah, with all that said, thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you're new anime fans to the channel. And if you found yourself really enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like. And yeah, once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all around. Peace!